So I've been saving up, okay, which causes a bit more hardships, but I haven't been in as much hardships having indoor housing, okay. But the indoor housing I have now is not because I got support to get it. It's because I used all my skill sets to get it, and I was successful, but it's not great here. Now, the money I've been saving up is as much to leave Canada so I can make use of the 3 post-secondary degrees I have that I won't be hired for in Canada. But if I get accepted in this new master's degree in education, you must realize that I don't think it's likely that I will be hired for what I offer to students, which is a lot of skill sets and amazing measurable successes. And the reason for that, again, is the industry of education or the cultures of education are not learner-centered, which puts me at odds with my colleagues. I've measured this and demonstrated this and reported on this many, many times. So if the university contacts me, I will say, it's very important that I finish your program without debt, because it's extremely unlikely that I will have work allowing me to pay this debt. Extremely unlikely. And if they want to say, oh no, you'll be fine, then they better find me a job and monitor how my standards, which are learner-centered, comes in conflicts with the majority of the priorities or choices of my peers. So again, for me to be successful would be to be self-employed, for example, right? And to be self-employed in education finds that too many unions of educators would be enemies of somebody who wants to be self-employed in education and would create barriers and hardships, again, because unions for teachers are not learner-centered. And they're barely teacher-centered, because teachers don't know how to advocate for themselves and what somebody that advocates for themselves looks like or doesn't look like. So they can't know if their unions are successful in the long term. Now, a lot of the post-secondary or even K-12 issues with funding are often related to, let's say, real estate, right? Post-secondary institutions really try to get into real estate, like VIU. VIU, the master's degree I was in, when they had us as the first cohort go to the fancy building they had in Mount Washington, one of the things we said was, we were stuck with a Chinese student who could barely read or write in English or barely speak in English. How did this happen, right? Now, did VIU put this in their report? If somebody audits their report about our feedback, if they know how to do focus groups or whatever, is that information there about how we felt and how they were wrong, and they would put in there, we should stop doing that, or how did this happen? Of course not, because VIU, like a lot of post-secondary institutions, they're trying to maximize their profits, even if they're not for profit, in many ways, such as real estate. Like, they'll build more fancy buildings on their campuses, but it won't include housing for domestic, they come from far away, or immigrant students. So that's one of the ways to see. But if K-12 or post-secondary had for decades been learner-centered, I tell you, none of the problems that they're facing now would be happening. And of course, professors and teachers have the right to lose their jobs as much as I have the right to never find work after I go do one of their degrees that would have poor quality. I was pretty pissed off when I heard North Island College after, because I got out of that program right at the beginning of student loans and grants again, when the teacher was telling me that she had to dumb down the course from complaints from students to her faculty. Now, they were as much domestic, I think more than immigrant students, who were complaining about doing the work that you deserve to have these students do so they can be good working in EC with your kids. And this is when I'm already surpassing the results of my supervisors who are licensed ECE, who are supporting me to go do this. So I am not going to get into debt to work in industries that are not learner-centered and that are not as good as I am, and that don't have student or worker unions that actually are able to put this vulnerable sector first. I'm not going to do it. So North Island College, shame on the union there, shame on the program choices, that they have me delay my administration into the program to do their paperwork by saying go do the English equivalency when I already have master's degree level English that's better than that international student by many, many levels. I know I read her work because it was one of my assignments. We read each other's work in one of the classes and report on it. And all I had to do was there was no content that was any really high school level. But I had to just keep telling the teacher I refer her to the tutors, if not me. Right? I mean, I should get paid if I'm in this master's program and I have to tutor one of my classmates, right? So I was referring this student to the tutoring that was at the university library. So again, there's so much disappointment as a student, and there's so few institutions that want to hear about these disappointments, whether they're from complaints from domestic students or international students. It's proof. It's proof. You didn't hear any of these professors saying, we have international domestic students with complaints about the low quality of their programs, and they have no place to complain to. And if they did, we'd have to reimburse a big part of the money that we need because we're greedy. So if they had been learner-centered, they would grow with the community. They would grow with these international students that would want to stay in these communities instead of going back and complain about all the ways, including sexual harassment or racism from some of the professors.